All right, here we go. Haven't streamed in a while, forgot how to do everything. Happy New Year, everyone. See if it's a little bit quiet. Oh no, it's fine. Perfect. So, I just opened a Tasty Trade account. I'm going to see how this platform is for the new year. I decided to focus kind of on Statarb as my thing. Mainly because it's what most of the funds end up doing. Well, it's the closest thing that I think a retail trader can do to be doing something close to what funds do, because you can't really do market making on your own. It's just not really feasible. So in terms of strategies that you can implement for retail, I think that it's sort of the more realistic thing. All right, so let me get to a point where I can share my screen here. Discord link is in the chat if anyone feels like joining. Let me send it again. Oh no, it's right there at the top. I'll send it. I already copied it. I'll send it anyway. Yeah, so I'm thinking just go over main. I have like a few sketches for projects and things that I want to do by the end of this year. And what I like to do for yearly goals here. All right, hold on. Let me stop talking and get to where I can share my screen. How about now? There we go. And let me check the audio one more time real quick. Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so for me, how I usually like to do it in terms of like my technical goals. So last year, my technical goals were to get a crypto package, like the cracked package done. And I had some other sort of science things before I was decided on this transition to quantitative finance, which I guess I'm still not even fully decided on, but I'm more, in the throes of that. So I had some other software things that I ended up doing. And I was also wrapping up my PhD, so that was a goal. So for this year, I have basically three goals. So if anyone has applied, especially recently, to quantitative internships, graduate programs, or full-time positions, you will know it's pretty tight right now. It's also not the peak hiring season, and interviews are much more difficult in my now limited experience. And I'm speaking not interviews, actually, I should say like the OAs. I've now done a couple OAs for this year, just sort of fielding offers, seeing how things go. And it was much more difficult than what would it be now? I was applying sort of in the correct season last time, which is what, like September? So almost a year and a half ago, when I was taking those OAs, they were way easier. Or maybe I'm dumber now. It's also a very real possibility. But the questions were much more deep, technical. What type of questions in OA? You can't really, like, they make you sign an NDA for those, but, difficult questions. Probably, I'm talking mainly about the probability style ones. It was sort of like before, they were pretty easy in the sense that it's what you'd see on any of these type of sites. The ones that I've had now, which to be fair, were from better firms, were way harder. But yeah, probability area, exactly. I still have, there's a few to do, like, so with Optiver, they have like a 4-step assessment thing. But if anyone's looking for practice, I mean, I'm pretty sure their OAs are automatic, so you could probably get a little bit of practice there. And that's obviously an extremely hard place to get hired. So yeah, so for me, the goal is this. And one thing I was noticing when sort of brushing up a resume for quant finance is a lot of my experience is not well shown in projects. So if you are trying to do, if you're like quant resume building, right? Projects, especially if I'm speaking to people who are not yet in quant finance, if you're in quant finance and you have like P&L to show, you have, high sharp strategies that you've developed that you can at least show like historical performance for, that's one thing. But for people who are trying to break into quant, projects are sort of like a key thing, right? Obviously educational background, but there's not much you can, really do about that in the time scale of, 3 to 6 months, let's say. But projects are something you can do that to really, not only are they good in and of themselves, but they're good for showing that you actually learned things from the educational background, because unfortunately, increasingly, we're seeing people, even from top schools nowadays, you see people getting out with good degrees that just don't really, know that much. And so being able to set yourself apart with projects is good. And so, like, the key thing for projects is identify key skills firms are looking for. And then, sort of like, do you have these skills is ultimately the question. If yes, do projects that demonstrate them. So, one thing I was noticing is a lot of these quant firms, they sort of explicitly say in their, what do you call it, the sort of job description, they very clearly state like PDEs. And I don't remember seeing that much. And I don't have any projects that show like experience with PDEs, but I have a lot of experience with PDEs. So I should probably do a project that's going to demonstrate that. Another thing that places were looking for, even on the research side, is sort of database experience. And I think for a lot of people, especially from science backgrounds or like, graduate education in science, you don't have that. You really don't work with databases in like real science research almost ever. Um, at least none of the people I know do, because it's more like you have a fixed set of data. It's not constantly being updated. It's like, here's my data set. I need to do machine learning on it, some statistical analysis, time series forecasting, whatever. It's not this like iterative thing as it is in finances. Databases like SQL, yeah, exactly. That's pretty much all of them are saying it's like a big plus if you have that. So, yeah, so one of my projects that I want to do is like an all-in-one, like, how would I describe? I want it to be like an online web app hosted on my website, which I need to put back online. And I want it to be able to, from full free data sources, do three things. One, pull, store, so like daily pull of, let's say, equity prices, or it could be futures prices. And then obviously the idea would be store these in a database. We'll say store in database, cloud hosted, because another thing that places are constantly asking about is like experience with AWS, which is another thing I was not noticing. So things I've noticed on Quant Finance job descriptions. Never touched AWS, me neither. So it might be time. I think it's really not that hard to learn, though. That's the good thing. Database, I like, and I'm going to say specifically for research and trading, because I was looking at trading positions too, but not really applying to them. Databases, AWS. I'll just leave it like that. ML model deployment is also something I've been seeing, which I don't know why you would ever want that to be the job of a researcher or trader, but okay, it's popping up in the descriptions from what I've seen. Strange. I'm going to say strange because obviously these are not the most important things, but I'm just saying these are, maybe kind of like unexpected, I should say. So, yeah, that's interesting. Now, if you're in research, obviously there's, what's up, Esquire? If you're in research, there's also the fact that people want you to have, ideally, like, you could do something like that. It's like coming out with a PhD is nothing ready for them. Still need to do a lot. Yeah, I know. And, there's such a supply of smart people in the space that it seems their willingness to maybe train people is minimal if you haven't done at least some pretty significant work on your own. But, I mean, we'll see. PDE, partial differential equations? Yes, that's what I mean. Did I write that somewhere? Oh, I said it earlier. Yeah. Yeah, PD, yeah, partial differential equations. And then, there's kind of like the standard things that you need to have. So maybe how can we organize this? Unexpected. And then, there's the more obvious things on QFin job descriptions. And we could do something like this. I think we should start coming up with a daydreaming model and start trading using prop firms like Top Step. I've never heard of Top Step. I have never heard of that. Oh yeah. Oh, day trading models. Yeah. Daydreaming models sound pretty fun too, though. Dream your way into massive profit. Okay, so for research, obvious things are kind of, and if anyone else has been applying and sees things, let me know also. I'm not really touching dev because I will never be a quant dev. I mean, unless it's like they're looking for a very bad quant dev. Trading. So they have a lot of people like High Sharp. This is one thing I've seen so many times. Historical performance, let's say. And I don't think this has to be realized. So that's the key thing here. It's not like you have to have some 7-figure portfolio that your strategy was used on that you realized High Sharp. I think people are saying, can you develop even like theoretical models with High Sharp? Which makes sense that they would want you to be able to do that. Like applied math to finance is another thing. So it's not really enough, it seems, or, if you want to set yourself apart, it's not going to be enough to have the advanced math background, unfortunately. Don't even know where to begin with High Sharp. So that's one of the projects that that's the first one I'm going to be working on this year. So we'll be able to do that. High Sharp doesn't mean high returns. Yeah, but a lot of these hedge funds don't really care too much about high returns. It's more like decent returns with, significant decorrelation from S&P 500. High Sharp meaning low risk. Sharp is basically your returns divided by your risk. Yeah, exactly. And so they'll usually say like 2 to 3. Or sometimes you'll see something like 1.5 plus, which is, 2 to 3, I think if you're an individual is very hard to have a realized 2 to 3 Sharp ratio. I mean, I don't think much of retail is doing that. 1.5 you could do. And also if they're accepting a sort of like theoretical Sharp ratio of these, that's this. Like what swing traders called risk reward ratio. That usually is like these swing traders, they call that like, if this is your thing, they'll call this like a 3 to 1 risk reward. Like they're willing to let this go up, say like 6%. And this is like 2%. Sharp about minimizing drawdowns, can leverage up to make more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if you have High Sharp, that's, yeah, exactly. As Esquire said, you can just leverage your way into massive returns, basically. And also there's massive value in decorrelation from the S&P 500 because, when these hedge funds are effectively selling volatility, having that money and not getting wiped out by these massive market movements that hit things like the S&P 500, having money when these other people don't have money is where you make just insane amounts of money, which is what people did in like 2008 And that's why, back then it was sort of like quant finance was almost like a bad, it's almost like a bad word. It's like these evil people. Um, so this would be for, yeah, research. Now for trading, I see a lot of backed trader postings. I don't know about these. These seem sketchy, but you know, the real gold is with the high sharp low vol. Right. Yeah. Like there should be maybe some sort of like I'm sure there are metrics that also weight the um, low vol. Backed meaning like you effectively you usually need to have some, I don't know what they are, if they're tax designations or like certifications or like financial money manager certs, but basically you manage money from their portfolios. Where are you finding postings? So there's this one GitHub, um, quant trading firms. Here's was it Papaya who posted a list in the Discord as well? So there's a list in the Discord, but there's also this list here. Oh, dude, these link scrubbers are so annoying. There we go. Yeah, so we have that right there. So that's kind of tough. Go to directly each firm. Yeah, I've applied to like 30 so far, not including anything like LinkedIn, Easy Apply, or any of those. I got a couple automated OAs and a couple. Well, I don't think I'm actually going to do them because they recommended me like a different role that I wouldn't be interested in, but I might take the OAs anyway. We'll see. I'm also in a spot where I'm not like desperate to swap jobs right now. So if I don't find something that is like really good, I just wouldn't take it right now. I'm more just kind of getting a feel for what the market is like currently. And so, yeah, back traders meaning they give you, some of their AUM to invest or something like that. What's your job now? I do research at a lab, so it's not finance at all. It's like physics, computational physics research. But yeah, not my favorite location. So I'm looking for jobs back in New York City. SMB trading. I don't know what that is. SMB. SMB trading. I only see SMB Capital. Yeah. Oh, they give you money to trade. Yeah, I mean it's sort of like what do they call those things where you can people do these like tests or something. You have like some amount of time to, what are they called? I can't remember the name of these little, oh, it's going to bug me. Can't remember. You don't get hired until you paid for a lot of courses. Yeah, classic. What are those things where it's like they give you some like test account, and if you pass your evals, that's what they call it. I know a lot of like trader, like these like swing trader, TA traders, like they like to do these eval accounts. I don't really know if it's similar to that, but it seems more legit than those, but I don't know. And the other thing is with trading, it seems so hard to get in without experience. Like everyone wants previous P&L. That's just the reality. It's no different. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I wasn't really sure about this. I guess maybe the only difference is you don't have to pay for the eval fees, which actually I don't even know. Maybe you still do. Previous P&L means I'm out. Yeah. I'm sure you can find ones that don't, but like, well, I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily a requirement, but everyone has something like this on their, they have like required qualifications and then nice to haves or desired experience. Pretty much everyone wants P&L. They make a killing on the eval fees. Yeah. Yeah, because they get these like TA addicts who are paying for new ones every time they blow up an account. And it's not cheap either. I remember looking at the eval fees. It's not like it's, you know, if you're blowing through accounts like every day or something, that's a quick way to go broke, I think. Um, Now, in terms of research, obviously education, people, it seems you need MS plus. Better off trading on your own money. Yeah, for sure. A lot of scams out there. Look at videos. Some try not to pay out. You have to trade in a way not to draw down. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it seems like, yeah, it's because, yeah, exactly as Night Night said, like, why not just trade? If you're that profitable, why not trade your own money? I mean, I could see it for some of these, like if a huge firm, if you're like say you're like a seasoned trader, you've like worked at a firm, you made money, and you're kind of like, all right, I want to do my own thing. I could see being backed by somewhere, and maybe that's interesting to you. But if you have no experience in the space, it seems like a very, yeah, scammy sort of thing, especially if you have to pay. But I don't know about that. Um, this I don't know. Also, maybe anyone else knows, but I've never seen any like quant research positions that are saying they don't require a master's or something similar. Um, Now, and the other thing here is coding, obviously. So I should have added that. But in research, it's going to be Python. No one really cares if you know C++ in research. But one thing that's very useful is like prior experience with devs slash what would you say, like, collaboration. This is something that I wasn't really expecting as well. Maybe this should go in the unexpected category, but it makes sense if you think about it. Because if you have experience, what's your job going to be if you're doing quant research? It's obviously going to be developing models. Someone has to implement the model. And so if you, to some extent, can speak the language of like these low-level developers, then that's obviously pretty nice to have because, knowing what's possible is, even if you don't know how to implement it yourself, knowing what's sort of the limitations of a low-level language like a C or a C++ is, or a Fortran, that can be, useful. And could obviously expedite the process. You don't need as many back and forths. I feel like I think I'm missing like one other key thing that was popping up on here. And if anyone else has applied in this cycle, let me know what you've seen. In trading, the other thing is stats. Like education is maybe bachelor's plus. Can't believe there's a large supply of candidates with these skill sets. Well, I can't kind of, yeah, I don't know. I could believe that candidates have all of these things on their resume. Now, how good they are at them, that is sort of remains to be seen. So many people exist. Yeah, I think a lot of people pad resumes though, because H1B is wing hung. Well, I don't know, but I have I'm skeptical that, I think people have like a very working knowledge of something. Maybe you've deployed something on AWS, and then, you say you're like an expert in model deployment using AWS for high volume data science or something. And yeah. So I typically with my resume try and keep it pretty honest. You can exaggerate a bit, but yeah. And yeah, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. The other thing is, they're like 95% of the prop shops out there are not these tiny, are not like Jane Street. It's not Jump. It's not Optiver, Sig, Two Sigma. Most of the firms out there are not getting like this top tier talent that probably has all of these things just because they put it on their job description. Probably they take people who have some of the key things they really need at the time. Yeah, so in trading, another thing is coding in Python. Dev obviously is going to be coding, C++, and Python usually. And obviously for dev, you need to have like numerical implementation experience, scientific, let's say like scientific programming. You also need to have kind of like a low latency IO slash comms with database. If you have 75% of the stuff on that list, you're doing well. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And the key thing really, I think, is taking these requirements and, you know, a lot of people, they just build a project based on something that's fun. And that's sort of what I did. Like with these last projects, you know, sort of build something fun. But I think this year I want to focus on building projects that, you know, take these skills which are showing up all over the place in these job descriptions and really put on display those specific things. So, yeah, for the projects for the year, say like projects for the year, trading, linear algebra, machine learning. Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe like in education, linear algebra, ML, RA plus. Quant is still a new job space that kids are focusing on within the last 3 to 4 years. Yeah. And the benefit, I think if you're not trying to get into the dev side, because a lot of these like top tier engineers from FANG companies and things like this, when they transition into quant, they usually go into dev or trading. The benefit, you know, in dev more than trading, obviously. But, you know, isn't there? Yeah, exactly. A lot of the developers are moving into quant. But I do believe most of them go into dev, which would make sense. But a lot of them are just very smart and like just raw IQ. I think you benefit the most from in a trading role. And so, yeah, like that's another thing is you always see these like pseudo-IQ tests on these job postings. What are they called? What's that? It's like it's literally just you can't give an IQ test. So they made a test that's basically an IQ test, but with a different name. What's it called? Oh, what is it called? Wonder test? No. Leak code? No. I mean, they do give stuff like those, but there's this Wonderlic. That's it. This thing. If you have applied to any of these jobs, they make you take this, especially on like the trading end. It's basically an IQ test that it's legal to give people for job applications. Wonderlic. And I've seen this the most in trading job descriptions. It'll say something like, have recently taken or are willing to take the Wonderlic test. Didn't know it's illegal to give IQ test. In hiring it is, yeah. I think so. Pretty sure about that. Is it illegal IQ test in employment? If an organization is using an IQ test, it's their responsibility to make sure the test there. Well, maybe it's not. Well, I think it's not good PR at the very least, and so they don't want to do this. It's funny if tests are illegal and yet every company contracts work. Yeah, exactly. They just basically find some workaround. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, PR. Imagine you have a PR nightmare saying like, yeah, I'm sure you can imagine how that goes if you have an actual IQ test on your like job posting. That's not gonna fare well for you on Twitter, or maybe not. Maybe I don't think Twitter would care anymore, but on Blue Mastodon or whatever the thing is that all of these people go to now. But maybe that's another topic. So, okay, so now yeah, projects for the year. So I want to have like a real Statarb package. So in the research space, you are going to see one of two things. You're going to see they want like say options, or it could even just be like equity market making or Statarb. This is like 90% of postings for alpha quants. There are other types of quants that they hire for research, but I'm talking about like buy side. Well, I guess MM is not buy side, but these big firms that people want to work at with the big paychecks and the big bonuses. It's going to be options, equity. Alpha quants, meaning you are doing like model development to develop edge for your market making, or usually like Statarb strategies. There are other things there are smaller firms that do like, non-Statarb directional trading and stuff like that, but it seems to be this is 90% of what you'll see. On the sell side, for these big firms that people want to work at, it's going to be market making. On the buy side, it's going to be Statarb. And yeah, so the goal is to make a Statarb package. So a few features of it. Nice visualizations, because again, I want to be able to sort of pad my website with these nice visuals of things that are sort of complex, to overly complex some things, to so maybe we'll see. I went to Jane Street. Can I read today? Maybe not. Edits of Science says I went to a Jane Street dinner. They only mentioned Statarb. Yeah, I went in on that too. Yeah, you have to invite everyone. If you can't invite everyone, it's not allowed. Was that for like a Discovery Day, or is that what was that for? Um, so I want to have it like forecast. Oh, you're in college. Nice. Co-integration. So I'm going to break it into sort of two things. Jane Street rejected within a day. I still haven't applied to Jane Street, but they would also reject me within a day. And they did last cycle. So, I mean, I haven't applied this time around. That's good, though. I mean, network with all of those places. Are you trying to get like an internship there or something? Automated co-integration / risk measures. Time propagate, co-integration coefficients, and then downside mitigation with sentiment. I'll just say alt data. Plus market data, I guess. So the idea here is, can't believe how much of all this you already know while doing full-time physics. I think I'm better at sounding like I know what I'm doing when I speak than actually knowing what I'm doing. So I can get the lingo down quick, possibly. But let's be real. The lingo is like 70% of finance, it seems. Can we add this to the dictionary? Statarb. It's a new word. Mathy, also a new word. Okay, yeah. So when you have these, when you do some basket of securities, let's say, whether it be, some places look for specifically equity Statarb, but some places are, fine with like a more broad security Statarb. And the key thing there is maintaining this co-integration. Start our own fund. There's an imposter syndrome in finance that people in control are not as sophisticated as you think. I bet that's, I have a feeling that's true. I do have a feeling that's true. However, starting your own fund sounds like a legal nightmare. I will say that. Isn't it some like insane percentage of like hedge fund type of people end up in jail at some point in their life or something? It's like, what is it? There's some stat on that percentage of hedge fund managers in jail. No, there's some. I remember seeing it. It was from this guy. What's this? Patrick Boyle? Is that his name? Yeah, this guy. He had some video talking about it. I think he was. I don't know if he was a hedge fund manager, but he definitely worked. Oh yeah, he is. Oh, he's apparently still a hedge fund manager. I'd be happy to go to jail while keeping the profits. Yeah, I think that's the catch. I don't think you're keeping the profits unless they're stashed away in the Caribbean. Where did my ex-Cali draw go? Is that the other? That's Patrick Boyle's long-lost cousin right there. Yeah, so some of the things in Statarb. So, and here's the other thing with Statarb is like much more easy. I'm not saying I want to do this, but in the it's much more close to this type of a strategy that would be carried out by like a PM or something. I worked at a broker's broker. They made fun of the traders they did business with. The joke was that the Stanford graduate that went to work at Bank of America and did what the screen told him. True, I believe it. No, it seems to be true. Anytime some field looks daunting, as soon as you break into it and have some level of expertise in it, you realize that the people who you were once sort of very intimidated by their knowledge, a lot of times, some large percentage of them won't know that much. You'll have like a few people who are really very smart, but the most people are kind of average, obviously. That's, I'm sure at a really good firm though, the bar is a bit higher. I was the only person at the broker's broker with a degree in finance, really. What did everyone else have? Some sort of STEM background or just no background? Well, I guess finance is STEM too. Actually, is finance, does that count as STEM? It does. It probably does, right? Does finance count as STEM? I would assume it does. Yeah. Broker's day for e-salesman? Interesting. Finance is not STEM. I had a feeling that would be one people have are salesmen. I see. Oh, brokers are salesmen. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Salesmen make a lot of money though, if they're good at it. And then let's say like coding / implementation stuff. So fast alg routines. Actually, I'm trying to mitigate like the amount of stuff. 100K a month per broker. Why aren't you don't want to work there? You don't want to stay there a couple more years? I mean, you do that for a couple years, you're all set. Fast. Well, yeah, I'm trying to mitigate how much time I waste on getting fast implementations of something. So nice visualizations. And I want to have another thing I want to have is in this package, topological analysis of vol surfaces. This is sort of a cool thing I'm seeing. A topological analysis of volatility surface. Well, I will show you at some point in some future stream, but you could imagine taking, from easily somewhere like condensed matter physics, where a lot of the math there is sort of fancy. You could imagine taking some similar math that applies to, you know, manifolds, and then a volatility surface is a very niche and simple case actually of that, where you can maybe compute some things associated with big peaks in it, maybe automatically detect those. I implemented the Black-Scholes model for a project, very basic, but I'm a finance major. Nice. Oh, that's good. Yeah. And if you can make some fancy visualization, stuff like that, that is perfect. Check out the volatility surface video. I have the most recent one. If you want, you can take the code from that and use it in yours. Yeah, so that's this first package, which I'm going to start working on pretty much right away. Nice visualizations. I want it to be, I want to have like a sub, or maybe like a fork of it deployed live on website. Again, just to show things like, I'll kind of put like show SQL, high sharp strat development. How long have you been playing with finance things? I mean, off and on, like 2 years, I would say. But more off than on, in the last few months, I've sort of been dedicating like a significant portion of my time to it every day. Not every single day, but most days. Show SQL high sharp. Nice visualizations. And then I'm going to use this package to, well, yeah. I want to implement maybe in like a private version of this code, extended Black-Scholes with time-dependent stochastic vol. So you could imagine taking these surfaces, put my section there, play with the exponential returns idea. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so maybe, here, let me do this, because actually it's going to be sort of different. I'm going to do it within, like, using this package, but, yeah. Here we go. Oh, no, I don't need to do that. I'm going to say it like mathematical finance. Extend Black-Scholes, time-dependent, stochastic vol, exponential returns. So you mean like, so for your exponential returns, you have like your, whoops, that's the worst. Say these are the real returns. Say these are the, no, these, let's say these are normal. Let's say these are real. Try to draw somewhat realistic. Obviously, I'm trying to draw high peak and sort of fat tails to the distribution. Real. So your idea is that the returns are modeled by, so let's say these are like our log returns. You're saying they should be modeled by, let's say, like e to the minus r minus r naught to some power, something like this. Put this in the Black-Scholes for the assumption of the returns and then see what happens. I would have to, I'm wondering how that actually happens. Because the other thing you could consider is you can actually approximate exponentials like this with the sum of Gaussian, of Gaussians basically. And this will give you sort of a nice, something, so like in the electronic structure, like in I do electronic structure work, And there's actually a very similar problem, which is that you have these orbitals, which means like the distribution of an electron, right? And your Gaussian looks something like this, but the orbital is supposed to look something like this, which is just an exponential. So this would be like Gaussian. These ones they call Slater. So one thing that people do, because these are a nightmare to work with numerically in certain scenarios. So one thing that people do is they actually take sums of these Gaussians to approximate these Slater orbitals. So they call them Slater type orbitals, STOs. And then they're just sums of like a linear combination of Gaussians. And usually what they give you is something that's much closer to it. So we could even consider doing something like this where we benefit from the fact that a linear combination of Gaussians is going to be mathematically identical to one Gaussian, just with a bunch of extra terms. Orbitals different from electron positions. Same thing. Yeah. So like it's like the same as if you are doing like a QFT integral, like over some, you have some DRN, and then you have like, these things are some product of these like single electron functions, or if you have the full like multi-reference orbitals. I'm calling these the orbitals. Good question. There's a fund out there called Artemis Capital. I've listened to everything they publicly talked about. He talks about the math of an inverted pendulum on a cart. Huh. That sounds kind of like a nightmare for your stochastic propagation. Because those are very like chaotic systems, but maybe the math is nice. What does inverted mean? So like you have a cart here and you have like oh, it's a single pendulum. I actually had for my graduate, you have to take like an exam to like as part of the process, like qualifying exams. This was actually one of my questions, was like a pendulum on a cart. Solve the equations of motion for that in like some specific Hamiltonian formalism. But this would be interesting. So yeah, like let's say exponential returns, Lin comb of Gaussian returns. He also talks about predicting flows based on what option ledgers are forced to do. Huh. I don't think I have the options knowledge to know what they're forced to do. What would that mean? Like, what are they? You mean like, yeah, I don't know what you mean. Or I understand what you're saying, but I don't know what that would actually look like. Extend Black-Scholes. And then some other, I haven't looked into many of these. I'm sure someone else has cooked them up, but exercise. Oh. Me neither, hence the models need to make. Yeah, I'm not sure. Some other models, I was thinking of some like a sort of n-fold polynomial model, or not, what am I saying? N-fold nomial model. So you could have like, maybe there's some nice generalization from binomial. Everyone knows basically like extent binomial model. Extend binomial model, e.g. try, quad, etc. And I'm saying these mathematically and just have like a base implementation because obviously this becomes incredibly expensive. But it would be interesting. And also the thing you could do is maybe like an adaptive detection of when, nth order model is needed. Because, I think the trinomial model is pretty trinomial options pricing. Yeah. So this is like a well understood thing, but I don't think, maybe we could read one of these papers at some point. I don't think people go for more than that. Sorry for misspellings. Yeah, no worries. I know what you're saying. Basic terms and preliminaries. I don't know if it's possible to extend the math to be generalized like that, but it would be a good way to sort of up the discrete math skill, because that's something I know I'm definitely lacking in that's useful in this space. And then the other thing is, like, I really want to have some good sort of like geometric analysis of key data structures. So this would be things, and this could be kind of general. So it'd be any sort of like low dimensional manifold that pops up in quantitative finance. And the most obvious one that comes to mind is the volatility surfaces. Because, and this would be where you could integrate PDEs. Integrate PDEs into this model. Because, you know, let's say you have, you know, the Navier-Stokes is like a good example of a PDE that I think most people are familiar with. You can have very simple solutions to the Navier-Stokes when you have approximations like the, let's say, like wavelength of characteristic frequencies are much longer than the depth. This is called like the, what do they call it? Shallow water approximation. Navier-Stokes, I can't remember what the word. Yeah, shallow water equations. And so this is like one super simple, this is it right here. You can basically take a very simple solution to the Navier-Stokes equations under this approximation, and you can imagine applying that to, for example, these volatility surfaces and your perturbation that you feed into these PDEs, and then you try to time propagate them, would be basically aiming to predict the volatility surface at some later point in time. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think there's probably something there that would at least look good on a project, because it would be complex mathematically, and it would also lead to very nice visualizations. You can see, let's say, like GitHub shallow water equations. Come on. Oh. Yeah, so I mean, things like this. You get cool visualizations like this. Now, it may not be useful, but I don't know. It would be cool to at least look at. So yeah, those are sort of the two. This is the main one, and then I need to finish this other dolphin package and sort of like start more seriously integrating things into it. So I'll just put that there. Integrate things into Dolphin and make website public. So I will do that. And that's sort of just like my resume website, not nothing to do with the YouTube channel, really. Dolphin, this is like my Quant Finance package that and currently it's just like this amalgamation of different tools that isn't well integrated. So I really need to fix that. So it has some things for like back testing strategies that I've been developing for like Statarb, and also just normal sort of like dummy strategies to illustrate the point. It has transformations for tick data. It has some fitting for the L2 data. It has some visualizations, but and it has some, you know, it has like the fractional differencing from the ML book we were reading, but it's not very well connected right now, so I need to sort of do that. So that's the goal. And yeah, I kind of want to sort of start working on the Statarb thing. Same as Dolphin X. I don't know what that is. Anything with X, I will not be searching in Google, because that is one way ticket to the ban hammer. Actually, I'll search it on my other screen. Dolphin X. Oh. Oh, no, it's not this. No, more specific to finance. So it has things for like detecting fake volume in crypto. Yeah, building aggregates out of tick data. It can do the back testing on data where you don't have, like, say you have sentiment and tick data and price data. It sort of has a way to integrate all of these into one strategy. And yeah, so I'll be using a lot of that probably in the Statarb package. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I will make detecting fake volume. Didn't know it's possible. Well, you'll be wrong some percentage of the time, but it has some tools for detecting what it thinks is fake volume, specifically on crypto, where it's much easier and much more prevalent. And yeah, so another thing is like, so it's really, I guess, 4 things. This one is a lot longer than the title would suggest. Integrate this, math, finance. These are not really all one project. This is kind of 3 separate things. Funny thing is, a good amount of quant finance doesn't care if you have finance knowledge. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you're sort of bias free because you see a lot of these finance pros who are like live and dying by the CAPM. And, you know, if you come into finance from not that background, you can, there's the benefit that you're not so tied to these theoretical frameworks that you almost emotionally want to be true. And I think if you come from a sufficiently technical background, you can pick up the necessary domain specific knowledge pretty quick, especially if you have a firm that's willing to work with you and train you. So that's another huge thing. A lot of places have so many applicants now, it seems though, you have to already be sort of outstanding in order to get in. Maybe not in terms of finance knowledge, but in terms of something else. Okay, yeah. And I want to have, like, in terms of actually the channel, I would like to have sort of code from every day in some repository. I don't know how this is going to work yet, but there's some, I don't know how it's going to work. We'll see. This is one of those sort of floating goals that I will figure out how I want to do this. But this will be something probably within the next month or so I cook up some decent solution for. And what else? Not sure. We'll see. Some other video ideas I'm going to be doing are definitely things like a quant roadmap, different types of quants. Some of you in the Discord have been helping me with this. And I've also been I have a couple of friends that work in the space, and I've been sort of picking their brains so that I don't make, just like garbage, just put out like some dumb opinion that's not correct. So now I think I've talked to enough people that I feel comfortable making these kinds of videos, skill sets for the different types. And then I will not stop with the technical videos, but these will, I think, maybe help draw people in to the more interesting things. It's only 3 IMO, dev, trade, researcher. Yep, I agree. But I think even when you're new to the space, or a lot of people who are coming from like the algo bro space, they don't even really know that. They think like a quant is a quant. So once you get a little bit involved, it's easy to, forget the basic stuff. That's not easy to someone from the outside, I think. Or maybe it's easy, but it's just like you have to do some work to even know those distinctions. Because I think a lot of people hear quant and they think, oh, I need a PhD. But like if you're a dev, if you are like some good low level dev, you probably don't even need any degree, I would imagine. If you have the sufficient skill set, I don't see why they would require a degree. Same thing with trader. I mean, you probably need some degree as like a proxy for, whatever, diligence or something like that, because at the desk, you're going to be at the desk all the time if you're a trader, at least during trading hours. But I doubt they care about having really like a master's or a PhD. And then even on the research side, it's like, yeah, you need those things, but you also need some other very specific tools that most people don't develop in a PhD. As a finance major, quant finance was a completely different language to me when I started. Yeah, I feel like in school, a lot of people who do finance, I feel like they want to get into IB, it seems. And that usually lasts until their first IB internship, from what I've seen from my friends. Because that seems like that seems stressful. People in the quant space compare about, quant work. IB seems like you have no life for the duration of your existence. Is IB hard to get into? I don't know. I wouldn't want that work life balance, so I have not looked into it. IB investment banking. And so this is kind of like, yeah, science, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, this is sort of the trajectory people go into if they want to become like a PM at some point. It seems like you grind and your life is just brutal for a few years, and then maybe you can get into, yeah, private equity or something like that, or a portfolio manager. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the go-to spot if you want to get into any of those things, if you're not already well connected. And it's also one of those things where I think you can get by a lot more on hard work. Like you're probably not going to be able to get by as a quant trader on hard work if you're not smart. Um, so the quant space seems a little bit more, I guess, talent oriented in that sense. But I think either way, you sort of have to work hard. Just the degree to which you would have to in IB seems way, way, way higher. I just want a foot in somehow. Yeah. Yeah, I think projects would be your best way to get a foot in the door. Because without projects, even if you grind a bunch of leak codes, if you know all the terms, it doesn't show up on a resume until you have either work experience or projects. And that's the thing that I was realizing is like in applying this time around, I think my projects are decent, but probably not as good as they could be to show some of like other skills that I have. So that's going to be the goal for this year for me. And then maybe apply around September or something again. If I don't hear back from other places, I'm sort of not too seriously applying, but volatility. I'm a freshman studying math and CS. What would you recommend I do this year to set myself up for a future in dev or trading? I would, you deleted the message, but I'll answer anyway. You should apply for, well, it's too late to apply for internships. Start building out some projects, kind of like these, or maybe get some ideas from the prior streams or the videos. You could even copy the Black Scholes series of videos I did, add your own spin on it, maybe add communications with a database or something like that, make a little website for it. And I guarantee if you're a freshman and you have that, you'll be able to get quant internships next summer for sure. If you're not an Ivy, it's very hard. It's not impossible, but hard. I'm connected with Jane Street employees on LinkedIn, most of them from, yeah, same. I mean, I look through all of these top firms, like all the tier one firms. Every single researcher, every single trader, even the devs, it's like US IVs, or they have like insane, math background from like Waterloo or some, it's crazy. I think it's very hard to get in. And so I think you really need to either be connected to the extent you can get good referrals, or you need to target lower tier firms. I have good schools as education, but I spent close to 9 years pursuing academia after PhD. Now seems like you're out of the track. No, you're not out of the track, but they're not supposed to age discriminate, but they don't, it seems they don't hire traders who aren't super young and pretty much like out of school that, unless they have some track record. So you should target the research roles, in my opinion, given your education. It's the easiest way to get in. It's also it's the sort of best work-life balance from what I'm told, because, you know, dev, if things break, that's your problem. Trader, you have to be at the desk all the time for your trading hours. Plus, you have probably some like pre-open stuff and post-close stuff that you have to do. So if you have a family, I think the trader lifestyle is probably more difficult. The research, it's much more similar to physics research or something. I did something similar, Black-Scholes heat map website with Flask before I applied for internships. No luck though. Yeah, maybe, I mean, maybe you need to add some additional spin on it. So okay, I see. Wait, let me see. So is it something like this one? Let me get Python plot. What do I not have it? So you have kind of like a top-down view of the volatility surface or something like this. Time to expiration and the moneyness. Yeah, maybe it's not enough. I mean, you want to try and do something that will add in an additional, you know, if you were to log your hours worked, try to make it as high as possible and flesh it out more. Maybe you have calls and puts on the same thing, or you have some sort of, I don't know. Yeah, because it's a good project, but I could see it being something where it's not enough on its own. But just get creative with it. Try and add some complexity wherever you have it. And that will depend on what your background is. If you're a programmer, do some low-level parallel implementation where you're solving for the IV. If you are a math person, do some, topological analysis of the surface. If you are a finance person, compare the pricing of these things to some other well-known finance pricing model for these things. It's all about, they just want projects that it doesn't look like you could have copy pasted it from somewhere. And so I think the heat map is good. I hear people say that a lot for like a good project to do. And I think it is a good project to do, but probably also do something else. Entrepreneurship is our realistic option. Can make tools like Spot Gamma or Unusual Whales and sell subscriptions or other business opportunities. Yeah, I agree. I think this year I will sort of more seriously start looking into things like that as well. But the hardest thing is really getting people to buy it, I think. Because as an individual, it's very hard to get in front of these prop firms and try and sell them software because they already have like millions of dollars worth of devs per year. And in the retail space, I mean, like that's where I think the money is, to be made, but it's very scammy. And yeah, it's sort of like a big reputational risk if you're tying your name to selling things to retail traders, in my opinion. Yeah, because retail is clueless. Yeah. And like you sort of either dumb it down for retail where they're willing to pay for it, or you keep it, actually quantitative and they don't know how to use it. So it's tough. I think there is something there though. I think there's like a midway point between non-serious and serious retail people. And I think there's no good space that addresses that. And there's definitely space to do something like that. I've been trying to think of ideas, but I'm not totally sure what it would be yet. But I'm sort of actively thinking about that because it would be nice to be able to do something where, yeah, exactly. It's something in that niche. But it's a good niche. And a lot of the like quant questions IO, they are demonstrating that niche exists. But, that's like a very interview prep type of thing. Do you think I should focus more on learning C++ or Python? Interested in dev, then C++ for sure. Like if you, You need to know like the low level optimizations that can be carried out for financial data storage, IO, you know, parallelizing these things. You should start to get involved in your school's HPC. Did you say you're a freshman or was that someone else? I don't remember. But if you're still in school, start getting involved in any sort of HPC work. That's something that devs want to see a lot. I'm only doing it to trade my own funds. I guess it's not the popular choice. I mean, it's a fine choice, I think. Because it doesn't have to be, some career thing. It can be something you just do for fun and to make some money. It's just much harder to make money than all of the like algo trading types of people would have one believe. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Dream would be to have enough of your friends to trade yourself. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's sort of the goal, but the knowledge in the space is so highly protected that I'm sort of, unless someone is like really, really smart, I think it's hard to develop that knowledge yourself without being surrounded by smart people. And the only way to get surrounded by smart people in space is to get a job there. So I think if you have a few years, and that's what, you don't see like many 60-year-old quant researchers, right? A lot of these people do quant research at a place and then they spin off and go do their own thing. But to do that on your own from the starting point, it's basically impossible. Individual quants don't exist. Yeah, I agree. Like you may have your rare prodigy person, but it's to the point where it's not even a matter of being a prodigy anymore. It's like you don't even have the budget to compete on the level of data. Can you explain how do we get to quant trader? My background is bachelor's civ engineering. I've traded as a retail trader. Where should I start? C++, Python, then go for MFE. I wouldn't go for MFE if you want to be a trader. I mean, if you have the money, I'm sure it will help, but I don't know enough about like the certifications, what you need as a trader. So maybe that does help. So you should look into that. If it's needed, you should look into that. But should I start learning C++ or Python? Learn Python if you want to be a trader. There's no real point in learning C++. But the biggest thing you need is high sharp P&L history. So if you can do that with your own money, that's what you should try and do. So understand as much of the space and like the real, risk-aware trading strategies and try and implement those on your own. Well, it's like a ninth grader thinking he can beat an NBE on an NB team. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like there's just no, maybe back in the day as an individual you could make it, but now it's not even so much just being smart. It's being smart plus having the capital to accrue data that gives you an edge over the other firms. And it's very difficult to cook up a way that would give you edge over these firms that have $20 million data budgets per year. Jane Street connections have FINRA certs. Okay. It depends on your goals. You don't need to be or even shoot to be an individual quant. There's research you can use to get ideas, test, or replicate, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, you can. Like it's not, especially in the Statarb space, like people think Statarb is dried up. Statarb is not dried up. Like if you can find a pair or a basket, probably not a pair, but if you can find a basket of securities where you have like tight co-integration, and realistically you need like many of these pairs, like 50 to, or say like 30 to 50. If you can find 30 to 50 baskets of sort of non-overlapping securities with decent co-integration and you can keep up on that over time, you would make money as an individual, I bet. As you said, one needs to track record. What's the minimum amount one should make before they even look at you? It's not amount make. It's more like what is the Sharpe of the strategy you're trading. So try and get like a 1.5 plus Sharpe ratio. No one will care if you double your money in a year. People will care if you can consistently give them 14% returns on a 2% on a 2.0 Sharpe ratio. That's what would get you hired over crazy high returns. Do you have any paper recommendations or go to textbook engineer? But I understand the math, but the financial quant nomenclature is hard to pick up. Use the difficult thing with the quant finance is it's like very uh, broad terms. So there's a lot of different domain specific knowledge you would need depending on what you want. But like if you're interested in derivatives, I think the Hull book is my favorite. So I think I have it right here, right? Yeah. Give this book a read. Options, Futures, and Other Derivatives by John Hull, John C. Hull, and see if you like it. It will give you at least a lot of the, you know, a lot of the lingo and stuff, and you can see if you're interested still. Statarb is not dried up. Yeah, it's not dried up. It's a weird take. It's so weird because it's always like the algo trading, trend line trading bros that say how Statarb is dried up. It's like, bro, you're drawing on a chart and you're saying Statarb is dried up. It's like half of it. It's like every buy side hedge fund is doing Statarb. Risk adjusted returns over simple returns because they don't give the full story. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, no one wants the Wall Street bets bro to be on their desk. So it's all about if you are like patient, if you're smart, and you're good at like noticing market inefficiencies. There's a junk bond trader that wrote a book in the 1980s. The entire premise is going to higher returns and diversifying. You can make more. Yeah, but I think the diversifying there is sort of a proxy for low risk. So obviously, yeah, the idea is like as high the returns as possible with low risk. But yeah, easier said than done nowadays, I think. It's tough just because there's so much money in the space that any, real edge gets priced out or decays so fast that you need to be constantly on top of things. And realistically, to like the problem with Statarb is retail that wants to do Statarb, they say it doesn't work because they want to find one pair and they want to trade that on 100% of their portfolio. So that's dumb. And if you do that, you're going to go broke. And especially if you're leveraged, you're going to go broke because the signature of Statarb returns are constant, very, very low trickling income and then a big loss. So if you're trading on leverage with 2 or 3 pairs in retail, you're going to go broke. And that's why all of basically retail hates Statarb. How old are you? I'm 30. Uncorrected returns is what all these Sharpe ratio guys are looking for. Yeah, uncorrelated with the S&P, exactly. Do you think the growing popularity of trading in the uncorrected? Oh yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. You mean uncorrelated? I'm guessing. Do you think the growing popularity of trading and the influx of retail traders coming along will make the market more inefficient or efficient? I think inefficient, but also they don't have that much money compared to institutional firms. So I think that, yeah, they will make it more inefficient, which is good. But at the same time, the degree to which I think there's going to be a large volume of money coming in from these retail traders is maybe not as high as the number of traders coming in. Because a lot of it is like people trading on 5K or less than 5K, really. I think like most of your retail trade, because you hear constantly like on these, if you ever look at like the Wall Street bets type of forum type of things like Reddit or whatever, you constantly see people complaining about like PDT. So they don't even have 25K they're trading with. And so you need 1 million of these people to give you 20, like an aggregated 25 mil AUM for these retail traders, or I mean 1,000 of these people. And, that's dwarfed by even like your small prop shops. So it's tough. But the benefit of the prop shops is they're diversified over, even if they're trading a single strategy, 50 different, baskets of securities on the Statarb side. So that's like another thing. So in terms of the theoretical knowledge, like I really want to read a Statarb book. That's why most guys trade futures and leverage is baked in and no PDT. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and same with like the crazy near expiration options positions that they take. And like if you're, I mean, I'm not saying these people don't make money, but it's obviously very, very risky. It's so easy to blow up an account when you trade like one thing. And even these top like YouTube traders, they'll say something like, "I'm a platinum trader." It's like, bro, what does that even mean? And like I understand if you want to focus on one thing but it's so risky. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you're like, I focus on one asset and trade 2 to 3% of my account. That's different. But most of these people, it's like, I'm 40% of my account is on this position, which is a stressful way to live if you make your money from investing. Good amount of retailers, traders don't understand the options are for hedging. Yeah, they don't even have like a concept of what hedging is, I think. Portfolio optimization is the best line of defense. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so that's another thing I want to have. I want to have in here like risk management, like portfolio opt slash risk management, because a lot of these Statarb strategies translate well to, like a more long-term holding strategy with a decent portfolio. One of the PhDs from the long-term capital management failure wrote a paper on basic risk management and why people fail. Oh, you should link that. I would like to read it. Sounds cool. Yeah, because the more involved you sort of get in the space, the more you realize there is like a significant portion of people trading with not really much of an idea of these things. And that's not even to be negative or something, but it's, if you know your friends who trade options on Robinhood and you ask them, like, do you know these different types of like option positions you can take? They're like, what? I buy the option because I think the thing's going up. And so, yeah, it's like you said, science. It's not, if you're directionally trading options, you're sort of bound to blow up your account at some point. Unless you have a huge bankroll or you are like very, very well diversified. Do you have the link to the book you just had up? You can just type in options future. This is like a PDF I have. You can do options, futures, and other derivatives. And I think there's a PDF. I think he has the PDF on his website or something. One of these will have them. Some universities have them. Maybe he's from Argentina or something. Is he? He is not. But yeah, the PDFs are here. I can probably copy this link address, I guess, and drop it in the chat. I don't know about this website, so if it's a sketchy website, my bad, but it says Universidad de Buenos Aires, so I'm assuming it's the University of Buenos Aires. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I was going to look at that today, like textbook on statistical arbitrage. So I also will probably, best way to do it, I think, would be, let's double check. Statistical arbitrage review. Let's look for like a 2024 review. Application of Black-Literman Bayesian. And also, okay, so in terms of theory, this is going to be the other thing. Theory slash Ty Lopez knowledge. We're going to be reading one book a day. So that's the new rule. And by reading, we mean looking at the chapter titles. Application of the Black-Literman Bayesian in statistical arbitrage. So, oh yeah, I want to up my like stats knowledge. So probably some sort of like stats slash measure theory applied to stats. And then a book on Statarb. Book on Statarb over something like that. Retail thing, it's 50-50, but they don't understand basics like implied vol. Yeah, exactly. Literally, it's literally they do think it's 50-50. Like as if it's so silly too, because it's not like they don't know there are these billion-dollar, $1 trillion in some cases, AUM companies that are doing this. Like, you really think you're just going to beat that? Theta is like the derivative of the Black-Scholes pricing with respect to the time to expiration. It's just one of the Greeks. But it's what, like, theta and delta and gamma are sort of like your most important Greeks, one could argue. And those are the delta and gamma are just the price derivatives. Okay, so yeah, stat on a measure theory, like applied stats. I don't know. I need to even like be more aware of what type of stats go into these quant questions. So I'm going to like do more quant questions / find resource on quant interview prep. So before I select a textbook there, I need to do some digging there. If anyone has any good suggestions that sort of helped you with those interview kind of questions, let me know. I feel pretty good on the LeetCode code style questions. If those pop up, I can't usually get like the best time complexity or something, but I can get the answer to the question, which, if you're a dev, you need to be able to get sort of those perfect implementations. But if you're interested in research or trading, it's more like, are you good at cooking up a quick solution? So we have that. Book on Statarb. So I will look for, maybe this is too recent. Still learning the LeetCode type questions. Yeah. You would, it would be better, I bet, if you have projects, like some sort of like pricing or math type of thing to demonstrate that, if you're going for the research roles, that is. High delta, but no liquidity and bid-ask spread. Yeah, exactly. It's like high delta for what? And I think that's why so many places are, there seems to be a lot of money to be made in these options market making firms, just because it's so much more, for any equity, you have a plethora of options to choose from. So it's much less efficient in the sense of getting priced out of any sort of market making activity. I still think it's too much for retail to ever make too much money doing any sort of like options market making, but I don't know that for sure. Okay, yeah, so this Statarb, I want to see if there's any. I'm not really interested in global markets. Maybe this will be interesting. Statarb, because the other benefit of Statarb is like it's a sufficiently low time frame strategy that if you do it for a few months and you perform well, that's kind of you can demonstrate like a strategy with actual edge in the time span of a few months. It's harder to just get lucky on a Statarb strategy than it is doing some directional trading or something like that. Improving statistical arbitrage. Stochastic arbitrage. I'm just kind of trying to, sure, we can download that. Statistical arbitrage, trading in the intraday markets. How do I get this thing out of here? Here we go. Risk adjusted market returns from, we can maybe look at one of these. We'll see. I was looking for like a good review. There was that 2017 review. Maybe that's a bit old, but I guess When you're new to the space, 2017 is really not that old. Stat arbitrage, pairs trading, review, and outlook. This is probably a good one. Review of Statarb, co-integration, and multivariate Ornstein-Uhlenbeck. So these may go on the list. What is with the... Can I not open a new tab? Nope. Unfortunate. SSRN. Paper has been removed from SSRN at the request of the author. That means it was either garbage or too good to be published. Who does that? I've literally seen that, I think, like once ever. What is statistical arbitrage? What about this? Let's see, pairs, basket. Okay. Because I do think if you're pairs trading, I mean, you probably need to have some data or sort of like information edge to be super successful, or you have to be constantly finding new pairs because, I mean, just like the combinatorial nature of it, like the more you have in your basket of securities, the less likely it is someone else has found this. And pairs would be obviously the most simple example to find. And there's no real added complexity to adding more securities to the basket of things you're trading in some co-integrated sense. So I think I would look for not just pairs trading. Deep learning Statarb. This is a long one. I kind of want to read through some of these intros. So Statarb, one of the pillars of quantitative trading used by hedge funds and IB. Term Statarb encompasses a wide... This is another thing. I feel like when people talk about Statarb, it's basically... there's other links. Oh, did you send me on Discord? I will add them later. I'll throw them in the... I'll try and remember to throw them in the description to this stream in case anyone wants. I assume firms want quant research to produce work that will make them money quickly enough, right? Like, is there pressure to have research that produces profits? I mean, yeah, but it's not like that day or that week even. Like, you develop the strategy, maybe you do some back testing in Python, maybe even you do some like, I don't know how that would work. I don't actually know if you would do any like live testing on fake money or something, but even after that, if it's like sufficiently high frequency, it definitely needs to be shipped out to a dev team. Dev team needs to implement it, make sure there's no bugs. Traders need to see how to use the strategy if it's not completely algorithmic or whatever. But yeah. Someone else paste those in Discord. So it shows you that the links are on here, but it auto scrubs any link from the chat, and I can't turn that off, unfortunately, which is very annoying. Do you have an active Discord server? Yes. Let's, well, I mean, maybe not the most active, but it has, I have no idea how many people in it. People somewhat active. There we go. There's the link. So conceptually, they're based on relative trades between a stock and mimicking portfolio. Mimicking portfolio is constructed to be similar to the target stock, usually based on historical co-movements. Every Statarb strategy needs to solve the following three fundamental problems. Given a large universe of assets, what are the long-short portfolios of similar assets? Given these portfolios, what are the time series signals that indicate the presence of temporary price deviations? And last but not least, given these signals, how should an arbitrageur, that's a fancy word, trade them to optimize the trading trading objective while taking into account the possible constraints and market frictions? Each of these three questions poses significant challenges the prior work has only partly addressed. First, it's a hard problem to find long-short portfolios for all stocks, as it is an a priori unknown what constitutes similarity. Second, extracting the right signals is difficult. And last but not least, optimal trading rules on a multitude of signals and assets are complicated and depend on the trading objective. This sort of seems like, yeah. So in this paper, we propose a unifying conceptual framework that generalizes common approaches to Statarb, and Statarb can be decomposed into three fundamental elements: arbitrage portfolio generation, arbitrage signal extraction, and arbitrage allocation given, your signals. This seems like a good read, and it seems sufficiently, sufficiently introductory. Well, actually, let's see. Let's look over the math. Arbitrage portfolios. So we have some asset returns that are just combinations over these things, I guess. What is this? Beta and RNK. Okay, we need to go to, where's the notation start? Oh, it's right here. We consider a panel of excess returns, that is the returns minus the risk-free rate of stock up to n, at time t up to t. The number of available assets at time t can be time varying. The excess return vector of all assets t is denoted as just the vector of these excess returns. We use a general asset pricing model to identify similar assets. In this context, similarity is defined as the same exposure to systematic risk, which implies the assets with the same risk exposure should have the same fundamental value. We assume that asset returns can be modeled by a conditional factor model. When aggregating tick data into dollar bars, how do you figure out the threshold to dollar sample? And do you know if your aggregation is good? Is it by generated QQ plots, skewness, kurtosis? Yes. To the last part, yes. And sort of it depends on your strategy as well, the holding period and like the target for how frequently you want to be trading. So, but the key thing is you don't want to make the threshold so low that when you do those QQ plots, you have like totally, wacky returns that are nothing like a normal distribution. So you can sort of dial it. There's no correct answer, but you want to choose something that will give you sufficiently improved returns over the time binned trade data. That's really the only thing there. And I mean, you can do that in a number of ways. So if your strategy is so short in terms of like the holding period that you can't get the good normality of the returns, then I think it's probably fine to just use tick by tick data or some sort of order flow based thing. I would assume. But if you're holding for an hour or more, let's say, then I prefer using the aggregated ticks because you can pretty much always get decent normalized returns with those. During like reasonable trading hours, which, that will vary depending on the asset. So we assume that the asset returns can be modeled by a conditional factor model, RNT. It's beta NT, FT, plus epsilon. So the K factor is F and R to the TK. RTK, what is K again? So this is some hyperparameter, I guess, for this model. Capture the systematic risk, while the risk loadings beta can be general functions of beta in R and K. Why is it N sub T? This general formulation includes the empirically most successful factor models. In our empirical analysis, we observed traded factors, e.g. the FAMA French 5-factor model, latent factors based on the principal components analysis of stock returns, and conditional latent factors estimated with an IPCA analysis, or an IPC analysis. Without loss of generality, we can treat the factors as excess returns of traded assets. Either the factors are traded, for example, a market factor, in which case we include them in the asset returns RT. Otherwise, we can generate a factor mimicking portfolio by projecting them on the asset space. For example, with the latent factors. Okay. We define arbitrage portfolios as residual portfolios. Sigma is, so these are like your risks minus these risk factors, or these risk loadings, and then these things are like the projections of your R's onto what, like asset allocations. What are the W's or omegas here? Let's see. As factors are traded, the arbitrage portfolios are themselves traded portfolios. Hence, the vector of residual portfolios is epsilon t is RT minus this risk loading term. Well, this is sort of like a scaling on these risks, excess returns, I mean. IN minus, and then you just factor out the R. Okay. Arbitrage portfolios are trades relative to mimicking stock portfolios. The factor component in the residual corresponds to a well-diversified mimicking portfolio that is close to the specific stock in the relative trade. More specifically, in the case of PCA factors, we construct well-diversified portfolios of stocks that have the highest correlation with each target stock in the relative trades. How are you getting these, though? I think there's some sort of like assumed thing. The transformer method, okay, no, they're still just recapping other things. Let's read on a little bit. Well, so let's see. I wasn't planning on reading this whole thing right now. This seems pretty short, though. I think I want something a bit more. Look back window, signal extraction, allocation, allocation weight. I mean, we could probably do this. It's a little bit more applied, though. I want sort of like a review. I thought this was going to be a review. So I want like a review of Statarb techniques. Maybe just a textbook is good. But I need to find a good one. We can look for Ernest Chan. Ernest Chan Statarb. Trading PDF. We can take a peek. So I'll probably do the hunt for the textbook off stream at some point. But we'll see. How to identify? Let's see. Stat. So does he have like a... I focused examples on the area of trading I know best. Statarb on stocks. So does he have a whole chapter on it or something? I should have read the table of contents. Tough scroll here. Here we go. Well. Maybe this isn't that good either. Well, I mean, maybe it's good, but I mean, I'm saying for Statarb review. I'll find one. I'll find something off stream. Or if anyone else finds something, let me know. But I think that this is like a pretty decent, sort of thing for the year. And I think it's more going to be like 3 months probably worth of work to do all of this, if it is sufficiently high effort. So that's probably going to be the plan. So like what the streams are going to look like, I want to have this, I want to do this front end thing first. Exposed C++ backend for ball surfaces. So that will probably be tomorrow stream. Well, that will be tomorrow's stream. So I want to do that. Trying to think of, then it's going to be probably beginner overview of Statarb. And then it's probably going to be extending a back testing engine to compute everything necessary for Statarb package. Okay, so this is going to be things like portfolio risk metrics. So see chapter 2 of the advances in financial machine learning. I will be sort of using that as the means by which risk is allocated to different components of the portfolio and everything for the basket of stocks. That will also be working on dolphin backtesting. I will fork code and release. So I'm going to, this one will be like available for anyone to use if you want. And then other than that, it needs to be able to compute all advanced metrics for, so the key things, like remember when you're doing these projects, if your goal is to get hired, what the hell did I just do? Keep looking back to, I have no idea what's happening. There we go. So keep looking back to see how when you're building a project, you target things that are going to be showing up in job descriptions. What's the best project to do for undergrads? It depends, like I think it would be very different for like a math undergrad versus a finance undergrad. So what's your major and how far along are you? Compute all advanced metrics for, these things. Well, maybe not that advanced metrics. So it will be like, portfolio, P&L. That will also be things like the Sharp, just different like risk metrics. Math and CS double major. I mean, I really like if your goal is to get into research, then I like the idea of taking mainly targeting QR. Yeah, then you probably have plenty of time, right, before actually applying. So assuming you're doing like a master's or PhD. So unless you have internships or something. But if you're targeting QR, I would really look at something like this. What is going on with this thing today? Like extending some options per derivatives pricing model, or implementing in some way something that's going to show you can not just implement what others have done, but take something someone else has done and really analyze the assumptions of that framework and extend them to be better suited to something in the future. Because that's really what like quant research is about. It's taking well-known foundational models and adding your own spin on them. What's my background? Education background, physics. So I have a PhD in physics. So maybe not as much math as a lot of people or stats, but I think in terms of applied math, it's a very good background to come from if you're looking to transition into quant finance. The thing is, if you're targeting QR, if you're trying to target it out of undergrad, you will definitely need to have like some really good internships or something. I think it's tough to, what happened? What just happened? Oh, I had no idea what happened. Yeah, but if you're targeting QR out of undergrad, it will be hard. So make sure you have internships at these places. Excalibur is just not cooperating today. So it's pretty decent. Very interesting. I've seen many engineers in quant finance as well. I'm planning on doing a double major in finance and econ. Do you think that's a good gateway? Not for quant work, really. I think you would be better off picking up math, CS, probably over, I would say over, I don't know, actually. I don't know well enough to say if it would be better to replace finance or econ. But I think if you're trying to get into quant, finance, and econ would be overkill. I would pick up math over one of those. Maybe some of the finance people here would know better which one is more applicable. I would assume you'd replace econ, but I could be wrong there. Because I don't really know too much about what's in the programs themselves. Or at least not well enough to distinguish one from the other. And I mean, the other thing, the best thing you can do, so like if you know you want to get into quant early, start getting internships like as soon as possible, because if you have some other background and you think of transitioning to quant later, it's a total huge disadvantage. Go look at the quant researchers or traders at any top firm. Their LinkedIns, almost all of them interned at the same place that they are now, or they interned at some other tier one firm and then eventually got hired at a different one. So if you're coming from not a top university, and if you're coming from, you know, a well-developed career in something else, it's tough to transfer. So you're in a spot where you can really benefit from internships. So make sure you do that as early as possible, and they pay well too. So it's not like it's some big hassle or anything. How do I turn off the dictionary on this site? It's so annoying. Portfolio P&L risk metrics. Okay, so yeah, this is the other thing. I want to have like a really nice visualization platform that shows like allows for like a replay of the strategy, update live, and all of this, because a lot of, I don't know if I added this. A lot of the unexpected things I was seeing on research and trading was like visualization, which makes sense, right? And like extracting info from large data sets. And these make a lot of sense if you think about the goal as a quant researcher. Yep, there Darwin explained reasons why 40-year-olds want to train 20-year-olds. Yeah, your best opportunities to do it while young, 100%. 100%. And you can still break in if you're older, but it's going to come with some struggles. And it sort of requires really spinning whatever skill set it is that you've been developing that's not quant finance. You have to really spin that and show why that's a sell as opposed to a wasted time. But yeah, so a lot of people ask stuff like, if I want to do quant finance, should I get a PhD in physics? No, you should not. Absolutely not. You should get internships in quant finance and then do quant finance. That's not to say other things couldn't, or you could do a PhD in something, but I wouldn't do it in physics. If your goal is to become a quant finance person, probably, unless you want to do research, I wouldn't even do a PhD at all. And yeah, so it's all about trying to spin your experience as best as you can. But the younger you are, the easier it is, because you don't have experience. So you can tailor that experience to the job you're targeting. So visualizations, extracting. Yeah, so this is the other thing. So with this front end framework, I want to have like I was thinking, you have some kind of like scaled time series for a basket of assets as maybe like sort of grayed outlines. And then you also have the co-integrated time series plus any signals you're computing on that. Then you, of course, would have maybe something like, I'm thinking these would be different panels. And I think understanding the nonlinear dynamic systems is important, and you can learn that on YouTube. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would be like your sell if you're coming from an engineering background. Oh, you're not coming from an engineering background. Well, yeah. Like finance is an inherently nonlinear. Yeah, like all of the relationships between your assets are going to be, typically nonlinear, right? And also, and if you can find them being linear, that's great, but probably they're not going to be generally, and it's all time series. So anything you can do with differential equations, partial differential equations, and time series analysis is going to help you massively. Yes, yeah, coupled, yeah. Thank you for the explanation. The strategy is a pair of assets I have where I believe they're correlated in some way, where X leads to Y in some way. If you just got the tick data, how would you dev it? Would you recommend aggregating tick data of the assets into dollar imbalance bars or another type? Well, the problem with doing So there's sort of like some extra work that needs to be done if you want to be doing aggregated tick data for pairs trading, because your aggregates are not going to line up in time. So um, that's tough. Like, I think more you should do more work on finding this correlation though, because yeah, when you're doing pairs trading, like that's a massive thing that pretty much everyone's doing. So it's very unlikely that you will find some direct correlation where a change in X leads to a change in Y. So I would recommend dialing in your statistics on that. And I mean, if it still persists and you are able to get something out of that, then how would you go about it? Well, the problem is that that's like a causal thing, and the causation is in time. It's not like as a result of trading information. So that's an example where I would not want to aggregate the ticks by something that's not time based. Or at the very least, your aggregate has to be significantly more uh, fine grained than the response that you're looking for in the time series signal. So, like what I'm saying is, let's say you have asset one, asset two, and let's say you have some signal here, let's say like T1, and that signal for you, again, I'm very skeptical of this actually working. So double check that what you think is correlated is actually correlated. But let's pretend it is for sure correlated, right? This movement predicts some movement, some T1 plus delta T later. Then your binning of the tick data, and it's tough because the binning is constantly changing if you use something like dollar bars in terms of time. Your binning has to be like, let's say the characteristic time of your dollar bar bins has to be pretty significantly less than your delta T, which is the signal response for whatever trading signal you think you have there. So that's the tough constraint you need. And then, I mean, how you line them up in time is more of just a sort of technical detail. There's a YouTube video on NDX plus versus SPX modeled as a copula. I would start there so I had a visual to help me understand the correlation. Yeah. Yeah. So, but like with pairs trading, there's a reason it's usually going to be mean reverting, because you want to look for like some like some significant statistical outlier in the co-integrated time series. That's why people usually do that over looking for these specific price signals. They're usually correlated up to a few standard deviations, and then the decoupling is violent and wrecks you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like if this is your stationary time series, you look for, let's say this is 1 sigma, and let's just say you look for entries when it's 1 sigma, right? This is why Statarb is, as Esquire said, characteristic of like a trickling effect of these small returns. So maybe this returns to the mean for you and you make some money off this gap, right? Predicting some sort of mean reversion with your pair of assets. Well, that's good. But what if you get here and you think, okay, we're sort of outside of my statistical threshold where I think the mean reversion is going to happen again, and then it goes 3 sigma out, then that's what Esquire is saying, this like violent decoupling that wrecks you. So you need to be very confident that your co-integrated time series is actually good, right? Sorry, I never understood time series. Is it just an incoming array of data where X is time? Yes, that's all it is. Yeah, this just being time. And so, yeah, this is like your worst nightmare. And this is why you need to have so many pairs that you're trading in order to not get wrecked. And yeah, this is why also retail hates Statarb, because retail wants one strategy that works always, but you have to constantly be updating your pairs, checking for co-integration, adjusting your holdings according to like the new coefficients that you get from generating a co-integrated time series. So Yeah, be very careful about having one pair that you're trading because it's an easy way to get blown up when it stops working. And it's also the key difficulty of like these mean reversion techniques is really deciding good entries and exits, because going far off the mean is the same thing. You know, that could mean it's going to revert, or that could mean it is going to um, give you, you know, this sort of like uh, not so fun scenario for you. Co-integration means it's just a co-integrated time series is one of like integral order measures 0. So like it's mean reverting. You could think of it. It's constant mean and constant standard deviation. Actually, I don't think it. It's basically just like you can look up the. Let me see. Integration of order 0 definition. Let me see what all of the. Okay, so there's nothing. There's no. So there's no constraint on the standard deviation, I guess. So it's just anything that's stationary. Because you can't do mean reversion on a non-stationary time series because the mean is not constant. So you look for some linear combination of assets that generates for you a stationary time series, and then you try and predict reversions to the mean of that now stationary time series. Do people hedge Statarb with breakouts? No, it's like an inherently non-momentum based trading strategy. You can do basic mean reversion with a simple technical indicators like simple SMA EMA. Yeah, but it's kind of like a poor man's mean reversion because there's no real mean you're reverting to. And that would be like an example of like if someone were to try and do like a mean reversion for a more like a breakout strategy. I mean, mean reversion hedged with breakouts. Well, your hedging in mean reversion is the, you know, compilation of pairs you're trading, because you need to be able to sufficiently distribute this risk across the pairs that you're trading. So like no one trades one pair. Well, I mean, people that make money don't trade one pair. They trade a bunch of pairs with like, you know, you can think of the risk that you're allocating or the percentage of your portfolio that you're advocating to one basket of securities is increasing your exposure to this risk. And if you're leveraged two and two of these, let's say you have 5 pairs you're trading, 2 of them break off and you're getting, 1 to 2% as a typical return from the mean reversion strategy. And then when these break out, you're out, massive, like 20%, let's say. What type of mathematics? And it's inherently difficult because the same thing that you're looking for to enter is the same thing that you're looking for that screws you over. So like having some sort of good metrics and signals that detect when this is going to be mean reverting versus like a true breaking of the co-integration is a problem. You have stop losses. Like stop losses for these mean reversion strategies are good. What type of mathematics should I start learning? Finish Calc 1 and first year stats. Just keep going with Calc then. If you have 5 months, just get a head start on your calculus. I mean, if you're interested and you're bored of calculus or you find that hard to self-teach, then do linear algebra. You'll need it. The thing is you need it all at some point. You need calc, linear algebra, and stats. So there's sort of no wrong decision. Just pick one and stick to it for a while, I would recommend. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So it's tough, but yeah, if you just spend some good amount of time on it, I think you'll be fine. Yeah, so in this visualization, and this will be after, where did I put that? Where did I put the list? Oh, the thing kept, didn't the thing keep crashing? I don't know where it went. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Scaled. Okay, so for in this Statarb like visualization aspect of it, so I will do the volatility surface thing probably tomorrow, building a web app for it, pulling live data and integrating it with like a database where we store things. So if anyone's even interested in like software engineering, data science positions, there will be useful information for you in those as well. But it's sort of domain specific to finance. Your work seems interesting. Gave you subs, see you around, man. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to be back to pretty much daily streams too. Okay, so skill times here. Yeah, so then I want to have like actualized PNL, probably for like multiple strategies. I was thinking maybe like a drop down arrow. Drop down for a basket of asset selection so you can sort of view them separately. So anyway, we can help build this. So yes, if you're interested, like I could add you to a private repo for it. This one I will probably not do a well, so for this visualization thing, I'm not sure. For the Statarb package, definitely I can add you to the private repo. For this one, this is going to be more like just a, small thing that I'm using those as the backend for. So I was thinking like a drop down to select the thing, actualize P&L, and then like portfolio risk metrics. So this would be actualized P&L, and then also things like sharp. I'll just say sharp if I can spell, etc. Portfolio risk metrics. So these will be things like maybe a few options. You can have like PCA of the risk components. I'm thinking also maybe I think we should all pitch in, create our own NBA team. Would be a good idea, yeah. We will, yeah, I mean, I think if it becomes something where more than like 5 people want to actively contribute, then we can just make it public. But if it's something where I have a feeling for now, at least it will be only a handful of us, so we can probably just do it in a GitHub repository where we all have the, you know, some fork or branch or something where we all contribute and then whenever we can merge to some main thing. That might be a good idea. Are you planning on trying to work for a firm or stay independent public? I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm applying just to sort of see how feasible it would be for me to even get there. But like I have a good job that I can renew for I think up to I don't know if it's 2 or 3. Well, I guess it would be 1 or 2 more years. So I'm not in any rush right now. If I got some crazy offer from like the applications I'm sending out, I would go work for a firm. But I'm more just feeling things out right now. It is my goal eventually to go do that, unless I could find some way to make enough money on my own. I also want to move back to the Northeast at some point. I'm in like the not Northeast and it sucks of the US. So portfolio risk metrics, PCA risk components. This fill in after reading more on Statarb. Okay, and then this will be sort of like the unique math implementations, e.g. propagated, coint, coefs, any sort of like a stochastic / time prop vol on the derivatives, well, I should say on the options and stuff. So I think this would look really good. Like you have some panel of these 4 things and you make it look nice and it, this would seem pretty nice. Now, there's also going to be the different thing that I have to work on, which is the volatility surface thing. which I don't know how that's going to go, but I'll start working on that tomorrow. And then, yeah, I expect some more, less like technical coding videos, but more on just like background for quant research, quant dev, quant trading, because a lot more people have been asking about that. And I've talked to enough people now where I think I'll be fine to make videos on that and not be passing out bad info. So those will probably be coming out starting in the next couple of days. All right, I think I am going to head off now, though. I have some work to do before going back to work tomorrow. So I'm going to probably go head off and do that. Let me relink the Discord in case anyone wants to join. Oh no, did it go away? Oh no, it's here. Okay. Yeah. And oh, is it going to work? Thanks for the stream and all the info. Absolutely. Thanks for being here. And yeah, if you guys are interested in like working on something like that, let's make a private I'll make a private repo, and if you want to like DM me your GitHub email or something, I can add you to it. And then if more people want to do it, we'll open it up. Is there other ways to test correlation apart from the co-integration tests? Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, like you can just check the raw correlation between the time series if you want. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can check for correlation. Good chat. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, you guys, for joining. All right, so I'm going to head off now, go grab some food, but I'll be back tomorrow, probably around 7 p.m. Eastern. All right, so I will sign off for now. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.